Today we're in beautiful Moab, Utah, reviewing the RSD Wildcat V2. So today we're on Mag 7 in Moab, Utah, one of my favorite trails. So this bike is so playful. I'm running it with 27.5 plus, so I can run the chain stays in a short 425, and that makes it want to manual and wheelie and bunny hop really well. Really fun style to it. This bike reminds me of a couple bikes. Reminds me of an Ibis Mojo 3, which is a super playful bike, but the Mojo 3 is not very progressive, and this is progressive in the suspension curve. Really hard to bottom this out for me. And even though this only has 120 mil travel rear, you can ride it like a 140 bike. You can charge on this thing and it eats it up. I'm not usually a fan of horse links on the climbs. They usually bob a ton for me. But man, RSD did a great job. This has a cool pedaling platform. I don't have to lock it out at all. And when I climb and sprint up these, it's not bobbing on me. Feels really good. I'm 5'6" with a long torso and legs of someone 5 foot nothing. And my biggest complaint with this bike is that I have to run a 125 dropper. Once you're used to a 170 mil dropper, everything else feels in the way, especially when you have short legs. I really like how you can run this with plus tires or 29. You can adjust the dropouts to have the chainstay length you want. Pretty cool to have those options and not be stuck with just one geometry number. I'm noticing the stack is pretty low on this bike. I wish the bars were an inch or two higher. I feel like I'm reaching down over the front, weighting the front a lot. And I feel like it makes the reach feel shorter, even though technically the reach is longer with less stack. I think in an ideal world, I'd have a centimeter more reach, which is crazy, a 475 reach for someone my height. And I'd probably run a 150 fork on it to raise up the front, and this bike could take it. You can really smash with this thing. When I'm running plus tires like this, it doesn't quite have the momentum of the 29ers, so I do have to put a little more effort in to keep up with my buddies like this. And it doesn't quite roll over the big stuff quite as well, but man, is it playful. I'm kind of bummed I don't get my 425 chainstays with a 29 wheel, because that's probably how I'd run it. I'm on a size medium. They have a really nice tune on this shock, and the leverage curve feels awesome on this suspension design. It's real supportive. I wouldn't mind a degree or two steeper on the seat tube. I've gotten so used to steep seat tubes, I love them. But it still doesn't feel outdated. It just doesn't feel on the cutting edge of modern. This bike is not like a typical 120 bike. It's overbuilt. Mine came in a hair under 34 pounds. It's a heavy bike. That said, the Kona Hanzo hardtail I rode the other day is 34 pounds, so can't complain too much. And I got heavy wheels and tires on this that I put on. Yeah, I find myself having to sneak more pedals in than my buddies on 29s to keep up. The big deal about this bike is the price, $32.99. That is so cheap. For a bike spec'd with a Pike and SLX 12 speed, a lot of bikes' frames cost more than this complete bike. A little bit more about my background. I've been mountain biking for 25 years. And I used to race BMX as a kid, and that gave me a lot of my bike skills. But there's always more skills to learn. But I definitely ride more like a BMX racer than a road biker who can just spin forever up climbs. I'm always pumping the terrain, overriding everything, having fun, and this bike really suits that style well. What a beautiful trail. This thing bunny hops exceptionally well. I love how the suspension doesn't feel spongy, but man, it'll take some hard hits. It's pretty amazing how hard you can charge on this thing. When I say you can ride it like a 140 bike, what I mean is you can approach obstacles with the same level of attack as a 140 bike. It doesn't quite gobble up holes quite as much as a 140 bike, but since it's overbuilt and tough, man, you can just charge. It pumps so well. I can't stand a full suspension bike that when you pump, all your pump is lost in the suspension, and this is just real supportive. I really like this shock too. A lot of people want to change this shock before they've even ridden this one. Maybe they want a super plush ride with less support. But I really like this rear shock. I don't feel like I need to change it at all. Then again, I don't like marshmallowy rides. It sprints up this stuff so well. There are some bikes that are heavy and they don't feel heavy. This one does, probably because of my heavy wheels. But for $32.99, when you compare it to bikes in that price range, pretty amazing how well this is spec'd. Marin's got some really great stuff for the price, though I don't think they're coming with pikes. Or an SLX 12 speed for that price. They might. You've also got the Fazzari Delano Peak, which I hear is real smooth on the downs, but needs a lockout on the climbs because it just kind of wallows. This bike definitely doesn't wallow. I love how quiet this bike is. I've got two of my cables hitting each other. That's 100% my fault. But the bike is just dead quiet. And it feels so solid under your feet. I don't feel like I'd want this bike with more travel. It does so well. Maybe a 150 fork up front, but yeah. Really well balanced bike. Oh, so much fun to ride. Pops into manuals so easily. I would definitely charge a little bit harder if the bars were a tad higher. I'm running them at the top of the steer tube right now, and that's helping. But I do feel a tad low. Really composed bike. Really smooth off those 3-foot drops, super smooth. This comes with 175 mil cranks. I wish they were 170s. The bottom bracket's just where I like it, but I do tag the cranks just a little because they're 175s. Nice, smooth. Here we are on Gold Bar, pedaling up. Bike flies. Whoa, hanging on. There aren't many 120 bikes I would just ride full out through this stuff. Pretty amazing what this thing can do. Don't judge it as an XC bike because it is not an XC bike. This thing's a play bike, charger, got a little bit of smash in it. It wants to just smash trails sometimes. Woo! I'm not taking it easy and I'm not taking the smoothest lines. Pretty cool on this thing. What a bike. amazing what this little bike will do. It does well on the steep technical chunk. I don't quite have 100% confidence at the moment. I still need to get to know this bike just a little. That looked painful. I'm a little hesitant on big drops. Reminds me of an Evil Following MB. Just super fun, supportive, lots of smashability for a 120 bike. This bike feels like it's got a little bit of dual slalom heritage in it. It's just really fun in that way that a dual slalom bike is. I really like this bike and Trial Z Slow Tech. It's really fun. That was great, thanks. I really appreciate the short chainstay on all this tech. Being able to lift up the front end and move the bike around really helps. And this is what I love. It's the type of riding I live for. Jumps extremely well. Super playful. You can set it up to be a plow bike. It's never going to be as squishy as a 140 or 150 bike. It physically cannot, but it's amazing how well it handles chunk. It's so smooth and quiet too. I love it. That was big. Holy cow. What a fun bike. I feel like I'm finally starting to get to know it. I will say this is my favorite horse link bike I've ridden. This is awesome. All right, we've made it to Portal. It's a Burley Trail. I would love if I could fit the 29ers on this with that short rear end. Scary trail. Woo. Tons of control on this thing. I love it. I love a 120 rear bike because the seat and everything doesn't feel super high. The more travel you run, the higher everything is. These are big moves. Big move. Woo! Yeah, baby. Yeah, Luke. This is so chunky. Look what we just came down. Stuff like that, where having the seat an extra 50 mil lower, man, that'd make a world of a difference, especially with short legs. And a little more reach helps just a little bit. That longer wheelbase helps you not want to pop over the front. Most of us will ride a trail like this once every 5 years. So maybe we shouldn't design the bike for this trail, because this is the exception, not the rule. This trail's fun on this bike though. A lot of people love to criticize something they've never been on in person. This is a heck of a bike. I am so impressed with it. The fact that it's handled this trail so well, I'm really, really impressed. And it is fun. Man, it's a nice smashy bike. Holy tech. Super composed for all of this. Alright, time to rate this bike. For descending, I'm gonna give this a 9.8 out of 10. I wouldn't mind a slightly taller stack, but holy cow, what a bike. It is incredible how beefy this 120 mil travel feels. And honestly, there aren't many places I'd want more travel. If I was racing enduro, yes, I'd want more travel. Playfulness, 10 out of 10. This thing is awesome. Super fun to pop into manuals, bunny hop, jump, goof around. Cornering, I'm gonna give it a 9.5 out of 10. I'm still getting used to it. The front wheel has washed out just a couple times on me. How could this bike be improved? Definitely room for a longer dropper, especially for short-legged riders like me. Man, if I could fit a 170 on here, it would be a game changer. Climbing, I'm gonna give this a 9.5 out of 10 for technical climbs, and like a 7 out of 10 for long fire road climbs. Value, this is a 10 out of 10. It's crazy how much bike you get for $3,300. So who is this bike for? This bike is for hard chargers, people who like to jump around, play around, slash corners, have like a dual slalom style, but they can still pedal. We just took it on a 26-mile ride with a whole lot of climbing, a lot of elevation, and it did it. It wasn't super happy to do a super long 20+ mile ride. A lot of that's due to the really heavy 2.8 tires I've got on it. So I'm really excited to try it with 29ers and a lighter wheel set and see how that changes how this bike rides. I might also experiment with the 150 fork. I might not. We'll see. I highly recommend this bike if that suits you. If you like technical stuff, jumps, playing around, goofing around, it really suits a playful charging attitude. And before you go swapping this shock for a Float X2 or something, give it a few rides, because I think it rides fantastic with the existing shock. If you like XC spinny stuff, I don't recommend this bike. It's just heavy, and you're never going to be able to make it super light due to the frame weight. And this bike isn't trying to be that. RSD bikes all have distinct flavors. They're not trying to be vanilla and be okay for everyone. They're trying to stand out and be different. And man, does this bike stand out. Reminds me a lot of my old GT Distortion. Our bike was super fun. So all in all, this is a fantastic bike for the price. super playful. If you want a marshmallow that erases the trail, you can set the shock up to do that, but I'd get a different bike. This thing sprints really well, super playful, super fun. What a super fun bike. I think it's a great pairing. 140 front, 120 rear. These plus tires did really well. Had a blast on that trail. It's incredible what this thing is capable of. It's overbuilt, so it's stiff where you want it, and it's just really responsive. Whatever you put into it, it just feels solid. You don't feel any flexing or anything noodly on it. If you want to save 5% on one of these, use coupon code PARTY at rsd.com, or you could save 5% on any RSD bike. They have some really awesome models. It's my main hardtail that I ride, the RSD middle child. And some people say the Wildcat V2 rides like a full suspension middle child. Sort of. The rear end's not quite as short, it's not quite as playful, but it does have a lot of that attitude about it. Man, you can smash and charge and pop and play. This is not a sit and spin, this is not a marathon bike. You would never pick this for an XC bike. But man, if you want to see just how capable 120 mil travel can be and how poppy a bike can be, this is such an amazing example of that. Thanks for watching. There's a party in the mountains and you're invited.